welcome to another episode of the Zone LDN podcast. Did I call it LDN or London? It's been so long, I don't remember it. But anyway, joining me today is LDN, isn't it? I did sell the Zone LDN, man. Yeah. How can I forget my own team? That's crazy. But anyway, joining me today, we have to the right of my screen on my left shoulder. If I lift it up like that, I've got Richard Oladipupo. Shewa Kesa, how are you, man? It's been a minute.
Yeah. You know, since we last spoke, Chelsea are still the greats, but Westbrook was still thriving and here, so it is what it is. That stuff. We never letting that go.
Oh, well, I totally forgot about the Westbrook stuff. Oh, don't worry. When the NBA season's coming, I know we got FIBA right now, but when the NBA is back, don't worry, I've got something for Westbrook. But also joining me, we have the co-founder of Undiluted Media, Sam. What are you telling me, bro? It's been a minute.
I know, man. I'm good, man. Happy to be back. Happy to be with the bros. It's been a minute. It was always fun when we did it. So, like Tony said, we had to bring it back, or he had to bring it back. And he said, yeah, man, let's run it back. And we was like, cool, let's do it. So Avengers assembled.
I like that. The Avengers are back. We're missing Abbas, we're missing Jay. But don't worry, the Avengers, we will, in the words of Loki, the sun will shine light on us soon, brother. I think he said that. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about, man. You know how the pod goes. We start off with the football. And we can talk about Man United, we can talk about Arsenal, we can talk about the Premier League so far. Obviously, City are 4-4. Chelsea are doing Chelsea. Liverpool are low-key cooking. I think it's under the radar, but Liverpool are low-key cooking before. But before I get on to Man United, because I don't want to go on a rant, and I've been on rants about Man United, and I know you guys will have your views. I want to start off with Chelsea, because with Chelsea and this whole transfer strategy, some people get it, some people don't. I feel like they're just signing bare young players, and they can do that. They can afford it, because at the end of the day, one thing Chelsea are good at, they're a very good selling club. So even if some of these players don't work out, they'll sell them and they'll make their money back. As you can see, there's clubs stupid enough to buy people like Mason Mount and Kai Havertz, and they can sell well for 65 and 50 million. So Chelsea can always sell well. But Richard, as a Chelsea fan, you're looking at this project and you're thinking, okay, do I like this? Do I like this what's it called? Do I like this project, or is there something? Because you're still not winning games. And if we look at your whole Premier League, like win percentage or win record under Boehly, like it's not even a Poch situation yet. But if we're talking about since you've been doing this project, you might have not been winning games. And you spent a lot of money, and I'm still seeing Conor Gallagher in the lineup. So like, tell me from a Chelsea perspective, how is it? Like, what's going on? What's going right? Tell me what you're saying, bro.
Obviously, as you said, it's not a Poch issue because we're still not winning games. Even though I do feel like the issues this season is a bit different from the issues last season with just one common denominator, which is still the injuries factors. I just said I feel there's a thing where we're signing our players, and I think we're trying to go for the talented players, so collect all the as much talented players as possible, because at the end of the day, you said it, we spent 1 billion, you're still seeing Conor Gallagher there as well, but it's not like we've signed 1 billion of bare 100 million signings. There's been a lot of like 30 mil there, 25 mil here, signing for the future as well. And as I was just saying on the previous thing, like the talent pool in football compared to what it used to be is absolutely shocking. Like there's not really that many world-class players sprinkled around each position. So even if you wanted to go out and splash out and go and start bringing in the Hurricanes and the Haalands of the world, they're just not available, which is why I can see why we're going for the talent thing. I think the issue is we are signing too many players, which, like, for example, in defense, you got for when Fofana comes back and all the centre backs come back, Thiago, Fofana, Badia, Sheila, Colwell, Disaster, because that's what I'm calling him from now until he starts playing it up.
There's actually put a new one already, Disaster. All right.
Written in the names, bro.
And stuff. But as I said, is a thing where I can't say that there's light at the end of the tunnel. I was even thinking when we lost against Nottingham Forest that we might just never get back to the top again, because I mean, you've seen it for Arsenal, we've been trying for like 19 years to win the Premier League again, and they haven't done it. And United have been trying for like 9 years. Am I correct? Or it should be 10 years now.
11,
yeah, 10 years now. So it's not easy to say because we've spent money, we're going to get back to the top. It's actually very, very difficult. And at this point, I can't lie, I'm fearing the worst, that we might just become a top 4 club.
Sam, Mr. Project, because I come to you when it comes to projects. Yeah,
Mm.
are you putting your stocks in this Chelsea project? Because I've got some stocks in, but I'm not trying to buy it all in. I wanna know what are your stocks telling me about this Chelsea project?
He doesn't want the whole load.
You know what it is? In this type of stocks, I gotta hedge my bets in it. I gotta put some stocks in Chelsea and then still keep my stocks in City, obviously. Because when I look at this process, I see there's some potential because, like I said previously, knowing Todd Boehly from baseball, my baseball team is the Dodgers, isn't it? And he's one of the founders there, not founders, sorry, one of the owners. And they've spent so much money to help us win a World Series and get to a World Series a few times. So I see what he's doing. But like I was saying on the Out of Bounds pod, in terms of what they're doing, their recruitment, I don't get it because Chelsea fans will tell you that Todd Boehly wants to win now. But if I look at the players that he's bought, there's no one in that team that I'm saying, okay, cool, these guys are ready-made players. And when you, back in the day, if he was buying a player for 50 million or 75 million or whatever, you expect him to come into the squad running. And now we're seeing players like Mudryk, where whatever the number is, 60 million, 88 million, 100 million, whatever the number is, he's coming to the team and we don't know what to expect from him. He had one good game in his debut against Liverpool, and then since then, he's gone missing, he's been smelly. So in terms of the project, I like what they're trying to do, but I'm just not too sure. And one thing I just want to say lastly is that in terms of the project, in terms of how we're going to see how it transpires, is if Todd Boehly continues to spend. Because one thing that I've been saying on a lot of pods or when I'm talking to people is that Todd Boehly's smart. He bought the club where he had to buy it for like 2.7 billion or whatever, but then he had to commit to spending another 1.3 billion, and he's nearly at that number. So let's see if he continues to spend once he's got that fulfillment of reaching that budget of spending and see what they're doing. Because when you look at the players that they're buying, I'm not really too sure about the rationale because there's, like Richard said, you've got bare defenders, they've got a lot of midfielders and a lot of attacking players that play in similar positions. So I'm not really too sure. So moral of the story is I'm hedging my bets on the Chelsea stocks.
I low-key agree with you, bro. Like when it comes to projects, like this is a bit of me, this Chelsea project, because you're buying players that I wanted for my club: Romeo Lavia, Malo Gusto, Enzo Fernandez. The list goes on. But when it comes to this, do you know what I don't get? Yeah, and this is why I'm not going to get onto Man United, but this is kind of my issue. Pep and Klopp, mostly Pep, has kind of given us the formula onto how to win in Premier League. Is that you can't just put 11 guys out on the field anymore like Fergie used to do and just crash it on teams. And we just say like, oh, you know what? We have 11 better players than you. We're just going to win the league. That's not how it works anymore. Pep bought players that fits like profiles, and player profiles is so key in modern football, right? So the only two teams I've seen recently, and fair enough, Liverpool were like this until they had to do a rebuild. And this is why Arsenal suddenly got good, because Arsenal started buying profiles rather than just players, right? So with Chelsea, I'm like, okay, you're buying really good young players. I think Malo Gusto is going to be sick. Enzo Fernandez is, we all know, like he's a good player when you play him in the best position. Romeo Lavia's 18, he's going to be sick. Like, and Cuckoo, you've got good players. But what I don't get is that when it comes to like trying to win this Premier League, one thing Pep has taught us, and now even Arteta last season, is that you've got to play your style of football and crash it on teams week in, week out, because there's so like little margin for error in the Premier League. So I'm looking at this Chelsea project, and I'm like, you've just bought bare young players and said, you know what, we're just gonna slap them in a 4-2-3-1 and try and make it work. And to an extent, because these young players, I think, will be good players, I feel like it will only get you so far. I don't think I'm going to see this Chelsea team win a Premier League anytime soon. Is because, like, look at that midfield. This midfield, Lavia, Caicedo, Enzo, on paper sounds sick. But when you actually think of the profiles of the players, okay, where's Enzo's best position? All right, he's kind of like a deep 8. Where's Lavia's best position? Okay, he's a 6. But then when you look at Caicedo's position, okay, he can play 6, but you know what? You can kind of play him as a deep 8 too. Where's your Odegaard 8? Where's your I didn't want to see how I didn't say Bruno. Where's your Odegaard 8? Where's your KDB type of 8 in that midfield? That's why I'm looking at that midfield, and that's not going to work. But all those three players.
That's what Enzo would be.
Say that again.
That's what Enzo is meant to be.
I don't think that's Enzo's role though, as that type of player.
Enzo's role, bro. Enzo's best position, yeah. This is why he was perfect for Man United, bro. It hurts me because Enzo's best role, yeah, is that deep 8. Is you're not the 6, yeah, but
I don't think he is.
You're them phase 2 to 3 players, bro. You know them play
I disagree.
Is your phase 1 to 2, your phase 2 to 3, and then you have your 10s, even though the 10 position's dead. Like that's Enzo's best role, man. That's what we were seeing in Benfica that made you, man, want to slap that type of money to him, and that's what you kind of saw in the World Cup as well. That's his best position. He's not a 10, and he's not going to be your most attacking midfielder. That's not him. He's good enough to do it. Don't get twisted. I feel like the brother's good enough on the ball to do it, but all you need to do is play players in their best position. And because Chelsea have just bought bare young players, it's only going to get you so far, man. Like you're not looking at the profile of these players and be like, okay, Poch wants to play this football. Poch needs this. Poch needs that. Poch needs this from there. Just like bare young players together and said, you know what, we're just going to rebuild. And I'm not saying it's a bad project. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just looking at this. I'm thinking, you're only going to get so far, bro. Like this is what I don't get, bro. Like we saw how Pep done it. We saw now that Arsenal were a good team because they started getting the right profiles for how Arteta wants to play. Like it's not hard.
But then, I think, but is that kind of what? Because if you look at the previous seasons, whereas we had seasons where we go and sign the big money of Havertz, Werner, Thiago Silva. I can't remember. There was a bunch of other players we signed that season as well. And this was after we just came off finishing top 4 with the likes of Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount, Pulisic, and these guys. And then the next season you go and sign Lukaku as well, and you start bringing all these high-profile players, and these guys are just not working out for you. I feel like that's why I said, remember we signed a lot of like 30 million signings and all that kind of stuff, which might not be, they're nowhere near world class, but in terms of their playing style, might be what Poch wants or might be what Graham Potter wanted last season and stuff. And as I said, at the end of the day, is even if you want to go for the top, when you look at the top wingers in the world, it's so like scarce. I'm just using wingers for an example. If you want to use striker, it's so scarce to the point that the teams that do have them, they're just not going to sell them because why would they do that? I mean, you look at Vinny Jr., Saka, Martinelli, maybe, and it's like shoot else from there. So that's why I said it's one of those things where they're going for players that seem to be talented players, but then they might not be world class because I said there's not the talent pool right now. I said it's absolutely crap, anyways. And it's a thing whereas I feel like we're also doing a thing whereas we're buying so many players because no matter where you want to look at it, some of these players are going to flop. But then maybe if you have enough, majority of them or half of them will succeed or so. So it's interesting to see how it's going to turn out. But yeah.
So what do you think, Chelsea? I'm going to ask this. This is a question for both of you guys. To start changing results, because I still don't like. I think long term, I think you guys are calm. Like, I'm not going to say this project's not working because I'm still down for it. I'm not, but I'm trying to think of like the immediate results. Like, when are we going to start seeing immediate results? Is it just when like more players come off? I was going to say the IR list, but when more players come off injury, or is it just like when is it's going to start changing? Because you can't keep losing to Nottingham Forest. Like everyone has a shot for it. I get
no,
it.
100%. But as I said, man, I think the issues this year is a bit different from last year because I think obviously you still have the same injury issues, which at the end is not what a finger in when the injury stopped because it's been going on for too long to say that this is us. But I feel like last year there was a lot of things as one is we had a lot of players that just didn't want to be there anyways, and obviously with the transition in the club and stuff like that, you can see Potter was clearly not the right guy for the job, and also I feel like this year is a bit different of. Poch in pre-season anyways, he seemed like he banged the whole system on whether Nkunku was fit, and when Nkunku goes down, is who does he trust to play in that role now? And he seems like he hasn't found the person for it yet. So now we've gone to this thing whereas you're still playing the back 4, but then you have the person of a back 5 on the pitch. So now you've got Chilwell over our left wing when he has no business being there. So I feel like there could just be little tactical changes that needs to be made, and hopefully that should lead to us start winning games. I don't think the situation is as bad as it was last season, but at the same time, if the same thing keeps happening, you're just going to reference I've been going on last season anyway, so it's still the same thing.
What about you, Sam?
I think in terms of Poch, I think he needs to change formation, go back to play a 4-3-3, and then also just play the best players in the right position, because I think like what you're saying, you spent so much money, and I think even Tony alluded to as well. You've got Conor Gallagher starting. Don't get me wrong, he's a Cobham graduate and whatnot. But if you're looking to do stuff, Conor Gallagher shouldn't be starting for you. You're gonna have to figure out how you're gonna incorporate that midfield once everyone's fit, because, like you said, the profile of the player, those players that they've got, Caicedo, Lavia, and Enzo, not that they're very similar, but they do a lot of the same stuff. So you're gonna have to kind of make sure that positionally you're telling them what to do. And then another thing that Tony said as well is, I think Chelsea need to figure out what style of play they want to do. And in terms of signings, we see the signings are not from Poch. This is from hierarchy. And we see it like, okay, cool. They're buying so many players just in that case of, cool, if they perform well over 2 to 3 years, we can sell them for a profit and get money. Like, two of the best teams that know how to sell players in the Premier League are Man City and Chelsea. So that's not a problem. But I think they need to have, moving forward, ideally, a player profile in terms of what type of player they want, and then also have a system so you can match the players that fit to that system. Similar to like what Tony said, Arteta figured out, cool, I've been at City, this is what they've done and what they've achieved. I had to do something similar. And you saw that he signed Jesus and he signed Zinchenko, and that elevated Arsenal into a different stratosphere. And also they played very different, and they played better. They had Zinchenko inverting, and they had Jesus playing as a false 9 or the target man. So I just think Poch has to change formation and just play his best 11, because I don't know how you can have Mudryk, Madueke, all these great attacking options, and they don't. I don't know, not Palmer, because I like Palmer, but there was always something about Palmer to me that I thought he's not that guy. As you know, they say in basketball, he ain't got that dog in him. He's not going to be that guy that's going to achieve something for you. He's a role player, innit? But you can't have those attacking prowess players, and you got Chilwell being your biggest outlet on the wing at some point. Do you know what I mean? You got Sterling that's been in form and whatnot. So I just think they need to change holistically their style of play and the formation. Hopefully that can bring some, promising results. Do you know what I mean?
And I totally agree, because that alludes to my next point where it comes to Manchester United Football Club. And do you know what's so mad is that Pep has given us the formula, bro. I know I said this earlier, but like he's given us the formula on how to do it. Klopp done it. He had his way of wanting to play, and he bought players that similar. He had that midfield of Henderson, Wijnaldum. He had the dynamic wingers of Salah and Mane, and like it's not hard. So now I go on to my next point in Man United. We can talk about the result that they lost 3-1 to Arsenal, whether Garnacho was onside or not. But for those that don't know, and for those that are listening, I'm a Man United fan. I've watched my team dominate and I've watched my team suck. But I feel like I've watched my team suck longer than they have dominated. Pause. But anyway, not the point. The point is that Man United, like, I looked at that game yesterday and I told myself, when we signed Mason Mount back in June, I told myself I'm not doing it this season. Like, fair enough, I work in sports, so I kind of have to be aware of Man United and what's going on. But I told myself after that Mason Mount signing, I'm not doing it. And the reason is not because of Mason Mount. I have my views on the player, but that's not really the case. The case is that Man United won a lot of games last season, whether we like it or not. We finished third and we won a trophy. But all the games we won, we didn't dominate. We didn't control. I'm not saying we have to have 70% possession, but a lot of the games we won because, fair enough, we had better players on the pitch, but the other team just didn't take their chances. And Ted Hart kept saying after post-match conferences, he kept saying, we didn't control the game, we didn't control the game, we didn't control the game. So I was like, okay, cool. If you didn't control the game, let's get someone to control that midfield. Let's in summer, surely that's what you want to do, right? You wanted to sign Frankie de Jong all them years ago and we didn't do it. Fair enough. There might be someone out there who's similar type of player profile who likes to play football, because if we look at Man United's midfield that we played last season, we have Eriksen, who's past his prime. We have Casemiro, who was Casemiro, but at the same time, for people that watch Casemiro, he loves to try that first time ball a lot and bear often, and it's just not it. And sometimes, like, the Casemiro we saw and loved and that won 5 Champions League was destined to be a great player, and was a great player because he had 2 midfielders in front of him, in which was Luka Modric and Toni Kroos. So really and truly, all you had to do in that midfield was sweep up and pass to them, man. You didn't have to do, but then he came to a Man United team which had Eriksen, McMuffin, and Bruno Fernandes in front of him, and he's thinking, okay, I have to do more than what I've done in my past how many years at Real Madrid. So now I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, cool, buy a controller midfielder. We didn't go do that. We went to go sign Mason Mount. we've already kind of low-key given up on this Mason Mount 8 project because one, the brother's not an 8, and two, he's just not the player to do it. So after that, that is why as soon as we signed him, I said, you know what? I know my club. I know that's going to be the only midfield signing that we're going to buy. I know we'll probably loan someone last minute because that's what we're going to do. But as soon as we've done it in June, I was like, you know what? I'm not doing it this season because I'm not going to go through the same thing that I went through last season, considering we all saw it plain as day and it's still happening. So yeah, long story short, that's why I'm not going through with it with Man United this season. But I'm looking at this now, like that's me looking from the inside in as a fan, as someone watching Man United this season. But I want to ask you guys, like, whether you watched the game or not yesterday, what is the ceiling for United this season? Because I'm looking at this now. The only way we can kind of fix this issue that I've just said is that Kobbie Mainoo, like we've got some youth called Kobbie Mainoo who's sick, like he's gonna be good, but we can't rely on some 18-year-old to come into our midfield and play week in week out. It's just not gonna happen, and. We've signed Amrabat, who is a 6, but now we're going to have to play him next to Casemiro. So who's going to be the 6? Now we've got 2 6s next to Bruno, and Bruno's going to collect him deep. And we all know Bruno's best when he's near the opposition box because Bruno's not controlling games. He's not doing anything. And I don't really think... I've got my things on Bruno, but we're not going to get into that. So does Amrabat come and change that midfield? Like, how do Man United fix that issue? Because I don't see any way out. And that's why I'm not doing it this season.
Quick thing, because... this is one thing I don't really understand with the United project and Ten Hag, because when Ten Hag came in, everyone had this thought process of he's gonna play the Ajax style of way, he's gonna have that Pep influence and come in and want to play, possession football and dominate possession. And like Tony was saying again, there was some instance where Ten Hag will complain about not controlling the game or whatnot. But then in the next instance, he will tell you he wants to be the best transition team in the world. But if you are trying to control the game, the players that you're going to have to acquire are going to be different from the players that you're trying to create to be the best transition team in the world. Because when we've seen that, over the last couple of years, the best transition team in the world has been Real Madrid. And the type of players that they had great individuals. And at this present time, United don't have great individuals to be the best transitional team in the world, even though that's how they scored their goal yesterday. You've got that outlet of, if you can get the ball, you get Eriksen on the ball and he can find Rashford straight away. We know what Rashford's going to do on the left. Pace, cut inside and shoot. 8 times out of 10, most likely he's going to score. But just in terms of what United are trying to build, I just don't really know, because I expected a lot more from Ten Hag in terms of players that he's going to be buying, player profile and style of play. And I haven't seen anything that's kind of moved me. Even when we look at the players that he's buying, there's a thought process and there's a common denominator. It's either he's managed them or they've played in Holland. That's like everyone that he's going to buy. And in terms of you want to dominate football, those players that you're buying are not going to do that. Amrabat's not going to do that. Obviously, Bruno doesn't do that. Mount's not going to do that. Do you know what I mean? And then being the best transition team in the world, you bought Antony. Antony's not going to help you do that because he ain't got no pace. So in terms of everything that's being said and coming out of the manager and stuff like that, there's a lot of contradiction. So just in terms of United and where they're going, I think it's going to be a long slug, because it seems like the Glazers are not trying to spend as much money, because the player that you brought on loan, you want to buy him, but you couldn't buy him. And now United are screaming FFP. Since when? I thought United are the richest club in the world, but it's
bro, you see it. You see it, innit?
I don't get it. And I just feel like, in terms of, look, we've seen the top teams. Yes, you got Pep that buys these players, but he's got a director of football to kind of help him. They've got a player profile. They'll say, here's 5 players that suit your player profile, your style of play. Pick out of that 5. And again, I'm going a little bit on a long-winded answer, but we've seen it with Pep. He's even changed it now. He's seen everyone wants to try and play tiki-taka possession football. We're still going to do that. But if you look at the 4 signings that he's brought in, they're all ball carriers. We got Garvadal, who's a defender, but he carries the ball. We got Kovacic, he carries the ball. Mateus Nunes, what does he do? Carry the ball. And then we've got Doku, that gives us pace to go direct and carries the ball. So like you have to have a bit of both. And I just don't see United in terms of style of players that they've brought in that's going to help them do anything great. So more of the story, I've said, like, I do think United are going to finish outside of the top 4, to be honest.
No, I kind of agree with what I kind of agree with what Simon's saying as well. And obviously, I know you say you don't want to talk about Bruno because of like everyone knows what he is at this point. But I've said it before and I've said it time and time again. Although these guys might contribute to your numbers, I always feel like if Bruno and Rashford, if they continue to be the cornerstone of United's team, I feel like there's just no way that team could win the Premier League or actually compete for it, because those are just low IQ players to begin with. And we speak about with United time and time again, like player profile and all that kind of stuff. It's like they're a team that are still doing the thing of we'll just try and go for the big names. And obviously, I was even against the Casemiro thing to begin with, because obviously I understand why they brought him in. At the point, he was arguably the best DM in the world, so he went for him. But then again, the players he put around him, because now you're asking Bruno to try and control the game, which he's not that. He needs to be further off the pitch as possible. And then upon that, who do you go and get? Mason Mount, which is another type of Bruno in terms of inconsistent performances as well. You come and talk about you're going to replace Wan-Bissaka, then Wan-Bissaka doesn't get replaced, which he's improved, but in terms of like the top fullbacks in the world, I still don't think he's there yet. And then obviously they replaced De Gea with the whole passing thing, but then as much as you now got a passing goalkeeper, you feel like you don't really have a controlling midfield that if Onana gives them the ball, they're going to progress the ball to the next level. Obviously, you got a new striker, which the cameo I saw from him, they could still be promising things, but then
I'll talk about that in a second. Yeah.
Oh, but then as Sam said, the players that he has beside him, Anthony as well. Like I was asking him from last season. Like they're just players that you've just seen enough from to know that this guy's not succeeding around here. And then upon with all the on-field issues, style of play, I feel like with United, we've now seen it happen twice now. Whereas in the manager has said something and publicly the player will come back and play. So it happened with Ronaldo last season, and it looks like it's not happening with Sancho this year. So it's just one of those things, and why I never really even bought to the thing of where United finish in the top four, because we've seen it for like 6 seasons now, whereas in United will finish in the top four, second or third, then the next time they finish outside. They did it with Mourinho, he finished outside, they did it with Ole, and I think it's going to be the same thing with Ten Hag again. So there's just the club is just not stable, whether you look for on the pitch issues, off the pitch issues. At least, if I was just to say, at least with Chelsea, obviously, yes, Todd Boehly has made mistakes, but I feel like within the Chelsea fan base, they're still getting behind the owners and management for now anyways. In United, they've been singing Glazers out for as long as I can remember. So it's just one of those things that I don't know if it can be fixed. It's actually kind of peak. I'm saying that he might not get back to. I definitely don't want to go back.
No, you're not wrong. And there are, as a fan, I don't like the fan in me says that I still think we'll finish within top 4, top 5, whatever. But you're right. There's no immediate fix to this. Actually, no, there is. I'll tell you the immediate fix. And it's not even selling the Glazers, because not selling the Glazers leaving. Because if the Glazers leave tomorrow, Richard Arnold's still in the job, John Murtaugh's still in the job, Matt Hargreaves is still in the job. Now, for people that don't know, John Murtaugh and Matt Hargreaves, John Murtaugh is our football director, and Matt Hargreaves was brought in recently, who is the director of negotiations. And I googled him the other day. I looked at his LinkedIn. His official title is director of negotiations, which is insane, because really and truly, correct me if I'm wrong, the director of football can direct negotiations and scout for talent, right? So now we've got 2 people doing a one-man job. Anyway, this is my issue with United. One thing we haven't done is that we've just bought players in a willy-nilly, and we know how Ten Hag's ID works. Ten Hag has all these principles, and he's like, you know what? If I don't know you, I haven't worked with you before, I don't know you can reach my principles, I'm not going to buy anyone else. So it's going to cap us, and which you've seen it now. We're only capped to a certain extent because we're the only like modern club to not have a very good director of football, work hand in hand with the manager, and just get the right profile of players. This is why we keep making these mistakes constantly. And as I said, after that Mount thing, I was just like, you know what? I'm not doing it this season, because I've been trying my hardest to like try and support the things that Man United are doing, because fair enough, if the Glazers leave tomorrow, their man are still in the job. The only way Man United get fixed if the Glazers leave and Richard Arnold goes, and not even Richard Arnold. No, you know what? Screw it, Richard Arnold, because like everything that's happened within Man United over the past how many years, we are such a badly run club, and West Ham are a better run club. Like, it's getting embarrassing now that you're seeing lower league I can't even say lower because right now they're better run clubs than us. West Ham's a better run club than us right now. And bear in mind, these man wanted David Sullivan, Gold, and all them man gone time ago. But somehow they're a better run club than us. West Ham brought in a director of football recently. Look at the signings they've got a James Ward-Prowse. But instead of adding just James Ward-Prowse to another West Ham midfield, what do? They went to go sign Edson Alvarez, who can work next to James Ward-Prowse. Because what does Alvarez do? He will run first and play football later. That's the West Ham way. They saw that profile and it makes sense. What did they go do? Go sign Kudus. You got Paqueta. You got Bowen. Like, you look at that. That's a way more structured team than what Man United have right now. And I'm looking at this, and how can West Ham have a more structured team than Man United? It just makes me sick, bro. So I can go on and talk about like how Man United are not well structured and not doing this, but like I told myself, you know what? I'm picking me this season. So Man United can say whatever and they can do whatever, but until I see those things go, we are only going to be capped at a certain extent. So and I think last season was our ceiling, bro, because even though like we didn't play well a lot of games, we still won a lot of games, and Man United will win a lot of games because we play at Old Trafford, and somehow we've got Old Trafford rocking again, and we're unbeaten in how long in Old Trafford. But away form, and one thing as well, the player mentalities, bro. When we lose badly. Like, we don't just lose 1-0 and be like, their heads just drop. And with Bruno, the captain, when things don't go his way, he moans. And listen, I'm not going to be one of them ones and be like, yeah, Bruno's moaning, like, he's not my captain. No. But one thing I've seen, especially with the losses under Ten Hag, is that these players' mentality is once their head goes, it's gone, bro. Like that Liverpool game, bro. Like, if you actually watch that game, even though we got thrashed 7-0 for like the first 50, 60 odd minutes, you never would have thought that'd be a 7-0 game.
Yeah.
It was after them first few goals, their head just dropped, and then boom, that was it. Even the 6-3 at City as well, even though City played us at the park, you never thought it would be like a 6-3 game. Like these losses when it comes to Man United. So I really don't know how this gets fixed. Even if like them man leave tomorrow, it's peak. I can go on and on about this, but I'm not going to do this, man, because it's the international break now, and you know what? Ban Man United. As I said, I'm not doing it this season. We can talk about Man United all we want, but I'm not doing it this season. But anyway, you man, that is my rant over, and I'm done. I am done talking about United. So yeah, let's get on to what did I used to say when I was getting on to the next thing? I said now it's time for the what? Damn, it's been so long, bro.
Yeah,
now it's time for this.
Yeah, it's now time for this. I was like, yeah, that was our football section, and now it's time
transition.
Yeah, come on, man. I'm going to be editing this. I'm thinking, right, I don't even remember what I was saying. But yeah, that was our football section, and now it's time for this.